Okay, so in the last couple tutorials on the playlist, we made some 2D images, just some quick starter files, and loaded those into the 2D Pygame engine. So now let's quickly go over the quick start for our 3D modeling. So here I'm in Blender. I'm just going to do a basic new one, which always starts with a camera, a cube, and a light. And I don't really need any of those. So by default, it's a box select. You can see the little icon up here. I like to push W, put the screen mouse or cursor somewhere in the viewport here, and push W, and it'll scroll through the selection options we have. I find it much more I find it a lot easier to work with the freeform selection object. So very quickly here, I have a quick start than what I'm going to start with. Very quickly here, to create 3D models, we create a mesh, something that'll look like. So usually we start with something simple like a cube and then do some editing on it. So I'll go in edit mode and notice that we can see the vertexes and edges that define that cube. So I'll select maybe one of these faces. So select the vertex, hold shift, and select the other vertexes to get that face going. Or we can select the whole thing. But when we do that, we can only select what we can see. So up here we have our different ways of viewing it. This one's wireframe. If we do a select there, I'll push W to toggle through again. Then we can select through and see the whole object. And select the corners we can't see. So I'm going to push, whoops, not R. So then we can add edges and vertices in order to modify this slightly. So if I hold my mouse above it and hit Alt R, or is it Control R? Yeah, Control R will kind of split that up, add another cut all the way around. And scrolling the scroll wheel up or down adds more. So I'll put 2 cuts in this way, and then we can adjust where they're going to be at, or just right click to put them in the default location and get some more faces to work with. So then we could do something like select this face here. I'll circle that out and push E to extrude and just bring that up and call that a character's head. Maybe select this face. Oh, I don't need that one. So select just the bottom face, make sure there's no other vertices selected, and again hit E to extrude, bring that down. I'll do the same thing over here. And click a vertex, hold shift to select more. Holding the middle mouse wheel down drags it around the view, and holding shift and clicking the middle mouse wheel will pan. So that's how you get the angles and the panning. Drag with the middle mouse button, either with the shift key pressed or just the middle mouse button drag. But with that face selected, hit extrude, drag that down, call those legs of a character, do the same thing for the arms, and just keep adding vertexes and faces and edges and manipulating those till we get the image we want, which can be a little time consuming. I have a starter one built in for quick starts. I wrote it as a Python script, and I'll link to the GitHub in the description of the video, where you can either download the whole plugin and add it to your menu here, or download a particular script, but a bunch of different starter files, so like a human or a tiger or a turtle, a frog, an iguana. A work in progress, but I've got a few things started there. In particular, a human mesh is what we'll need here. And, scrolling the scroll wheel zooms in and out. So I'll shift and middle click drag to pan it to a different position, and then middle click drag to turn the angle. And since living things are symmetric, I only did half of a model. That way they're just starter files. As you can see here, it's still just a very basic mesh. And with the symmetry of living things, can apply all the details just on half of it, and then have them mirrored over. So to get the whole one, this button here is our modifiers. Looks like a wrench. And one of our modifiers is a mirror modifier, which will fill in the other half. And then we can come up and under Object, with it selected, come to the Object tab, and there's an option to shade it smoothly. So that gives us a quick starter mesh for a human, but we probably want some sort of color on it. And for models, our coloring and textures all apply in materials. So that's this little button down here. So once we have our model, whether you want to start with a box and add vertexes and drag them around, add vertexes and edges and faces till you get the shape you want, or you can go to GitHub and download my starter files here to get a quick start one. We want to add a new material, and for this one I just want to add, it's taking a long time to load, there it goes. I just want to apply some color. So this very top option here is base color. I'm going to click that and choose something hopefully kind of flesh color. So I'll put that there, and up here where we clicked on the wireframe view, we have the object view, and this one is the material view. So if we choose that, we'll see what color it is. That'll work, maybe a little darker. That looks kind of flesh colored. So I'm going to save this file, save this here in that images folder. I'll call it just a human, and I will link to those quick start ones so that you can get a very quick start. That way I don't have to set that up all over again. So I did all the stuff and then wrote a Python script that carried out the steps for just half of it to get a quick starting point. And to work in Panda 3D, it actually wants to work with BAM files, which is not an export from Blender. But when we installed Panda 3D, there were lots and lots of scripts in there, including tons and tons of converters. One of the converters that came with it by default was a GLTF to a BAM file. So if we export a GLTF file, just export GLTF and put it in the same folder and call it human. And one thing you want to make sure is on the export over under geometry, make sure that UVs and materials are both selected. And go ahead and export that. Just take a second. So that'll give us a model to work with. So if I come over here, there's the Blender file, and then we have a 3D model of it. So hopefully it won't take too long to open. Oh, I forgot to apply the modifier. So we have a half a model. So come back over to that wrench looking thing, the modifiers. After the adding it only gives us a preview, we have to actually apply it. So now we should have a solid model. So I'll export that here and just kind of overwrite that file. Now if we do a preview, that's taking a long time to open. There we go. Gives us a starter model to work with very quickly. And I will link to that on GitHub so you can download the entire plugin or just one script and then come over to the scripting tab and open the Python script and hit a run button, which is hidden by the default view. When you have a script open, there's a run button shows up right over here. So I'll link to that on GitHub, but that gives us our model, but we need to convert that to a BAM file for Panda 3D, which Panda 3D included tons and tons of converters for us. So I will grab the directory here where I'm working at, set location to work in that directory, and there's a converter GLTF to BAM. Oh, and if you're in the old style command prompt, remember you want to do Python and say what module you're in, and then the GLTF2BAM. But in PowerShell, it'll recognize the Python modules once we have the environment variables for path and class path set up. I don't think we even need class path. I think we just need path. But GLTF2BAM, and then what file do we want to convert? And that's a human, I believe it was a .glb. You can come over here and right click to check and make sure. Under properties, yeah, .glb file. So we want to convert human.glb to BAM to a BAM file. So human, and we don't need an extension on a BAM file, but I always like to include one to just to have it there. So that converter will run, and over here we have our BAM file. We're going to open it this way. So you can see it's, well, probably seen that before, binary file. So we don't really need an extension on it, but I like to do that to keep them straight. But that's what Panda 3D wants to work with, and they included converters from all the major 3D things. There is even a Blender 2BAM, but Blender made some major changes going from 2.8 to 2.9, and the Blender 2BAM converter hasn't caught up yet, but it should soon. So that gives us our human model for the 3D thing, and it looks like we're coming on 12 minutes on the video, so I will do a land surface for our model to stand on in the next video.